Okay, so I'm on to the last part now. I have, based on what the question's asking me to do, I've calculated the total mark for each student by iterating through a 2D array and storing it into a 1D array. I have then done the second bullet point, which is I've iterated through the 1D array, and then I've calculated the average and stored it in a separate 1D array. So I now have the average mark and the combined total mark. The name was already there in the original 1D array. So I just need to calculate the grade. The grade, I have a table at the top which I can use. And then I'm just going to do the second one as well. It calculates, stores, and outputs the number of distinctions, merits, passes, and fails. So as I'm outputting, or as I iterate through the array, I can count the number of distinctions, merits, passes, and fails that students are achieving, and I can just print them off right at the end. So I've got distinction at the top over here equals 70. That's my constant. Merit 55. I'm just going to add the other two constants. I'll call it passes because when I type in pass, I can see it's a keyword. So passes is going to be more than 40, and fail is going to be less than 40. I don't really need to store fail, simply because if you don't get distinction, merit, or pass, then you're going to default to a fail. I'm also going to include the number of students that get these. So I'll call that students distinction, and I'm going to initialize that to 0. And then students that got merit, I'm going to initialize that to 0. And students pass. And I still need one for students fail, because I will have to print off how many students are failing. So I've got those initialized for me at the top. Yeah. Now I'm going to start and work my way through. So I output for each one. So now I'm going to use a for loop because I know how many times I'm going around the loop. So for count in range, how many times I'm going around the loop. I've done this before. Class size, using appropriate identifier names to help me as well. And what am I going to do 5 times? Well, I'm going to print off the name, so that's easy. I'm going to print off. Let's do in speech marks name. Let's leave a little space there. And this is going to be student name, and it's going to be count. So it works its way around. What's the second thing I have to do? The combined total mark. So I can just take this, and I'm going to print off. Where did I store the combined total mark in? I stored it in the array called total scores. So I'll put total score, and this is going to be in the total scores array. Okay, lovely. Third thing I need to print off is the average mark. So again, the same again. Average mark. So, and that's going to be in the second 1D array that I made, which was called average score. And then the last thing I need to print off is a grade awarded. Now, I don't have the grade awarded. I haven't stored it. I can check what it is based on what their score is. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have an if statement just to check what score did they get. And then based on the score, it's going to print it off. So if the average score that they got, I'm looking at their specific index, if that was more than or equal to, and I could put 70, that would work, because it matches the table. But to get that extra mark, to show that I know how to use constants, I'm going to use the constant called distinction. So if I get more than 70, it's actually doing the same thing, then what I'm going to do, I haven't spelled that correctly, average scores, average score even. If I get more than distinction, then what do I need to do? Well, I need to print that you got a distinction. So I would print, let's print distinction. So this does the final bullet point because it prints off, and I'm going to carry on doing else if for the other ones. But I need to also calculate, store, and output the number of distinctions. So I had a variable at the top. I called it student distinction. So let's take student distinction is going to equal, in case I already have some in there, it's going to equal student distinction plus 1. So I'm keeping a track of how many student distinctions they are. And then I'm just going to work my way through and do the same for the others. So let's take this again, make it a bit easier for me. If it's more than merit, then print merit, and students merit, let's add 1 to that. It's going to add 1 to that. And then we have another elif for our pass students. So if it's higher than, now remember I didn't call it pass, you can see it's a keyword, I call it passes. So let's do pass, and it's showing up as P-A-S-S-E-S, so I'm just going to quickly look at the top. Oops, I didn't put the capital P in there, always helps. Okay, pass is in there, you get a pass, and then student pass is going to equal student pass plus 1. See, this has gone totally haywire. Okay, there we are. And then basically if they didn't get any of that, then they probably failed. Yeah, so we just go else print, and then we'll just print fail, and then we'll just add students fail. Did I create a students fail at the top? Yes, I did. Student fail. So student fail equals student fail plus 1. Okay, so now it's going to iterate through each individual student and print it all off as they go along. I haven't done the last bullet point. I have calculated the number of students that got distinction, merit, pass and fail, but I haven't outputted them. So I just need to finish off. But let's get out of the for loop because I don't want it to print every time. I'm just going to print off. Let's do distinctions, and let's follow that with student distinction, and I just need to do 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can get distinctions, merits, passes, and fails, and that would be students merit, student pass, and student. Student fail. There we go. Let's have a quick run of the program and check if it works. Click play, and I have now, if I make this a little bit bigger for you, you can see it went through. First student Bob, score average, he failed, 25 is under 40. Lisa, 140, 47 passed. Yep, between 40 and 55. This student obviously had another pass. There was a merit, and there was a distinction, and I put a variety of data in just to check that it all worked. And then how many distinctions did I get? 1 distinction, 1 merit, 2 passes, and 1 fail. And there we are, we're done and dusted. If I look at the code, have I calculated the combined total average? Yes, I have. Have I calculated the average mark? Yes. Have I outputted information? Yes. And have I done that? Yes. I would now just go up through my code and make sure I comment accordingly. So I would put here, this is a looping structure that iterates through a 2D array and adds the information into another 1D array. Just general comments like this, just to show the examiner I know exactly what's happening. I've not just memorized code and I've just put it in there. I'd explained that this was these were constants over here. You can even comment it over there. This would be declared as a constant, and then you can put declare. We don't put declare, you put constant. Distinction, and if you wanted to be, add your bit of pseudocode in there as well, you could show that you understand that as well. But ultimately, remember that there's a matrix here, there's a rubric here, so there's no negative marking. The more you do, the more you can get potential marks for. You're not going to lose marks because you over comment, but you will lose marks if you under comment. Yeah, if you have a couple of variables in there that you thought you were going to need but you didn't use, it's fine. You're not going to lose marks because you have extra variables, but you will lose marks if you don't declare and initialize ones that you've used. Yeah, so hope that's been useful for you. Make sure you have a go, watch my videos, then get rid of all of the help and support. Start with a brand new Python document and then see if you can do it from start to finish. Yeah. Thank you. Good luck.